speeding of cars down that street, on a dark street, it's a hazard. Another item I would like to bring to your attention is, again, I mentioned to the council and to the citizens as related to the cement dust from East Texas precast. It's not getting any better. I think if you notice, Mr. Mayor, if you cross the railroad track, there's a pothole about this deep. And I think that if East Texas precast cast cement, I think that they would be a friend to help the city at least fill that pothole. I think that's dangerous. And I think that being a good friend of the city, as much cement dust as we are inhaling, I think that that's something that needs to be looked into. And I don't think that that's a major request. I don't know any other city that I know that a cement company has grown as fast as East Texas Precast. I mean, it's a factory. And I think that we're having a problem. We're having a major problem, and this is a health problem. And I'm not the only one hoarse trying to talk. And I think that all of us need to realize that cement, gets in your lungs, and after it gets in your lungs, it turns to cement. So I don't know how much longer we're going to be around. And if anybody, I'll tell you what, the other thing too, if you think this is when most cars that travel down 1098 now, the cars are white, cement. I don't know if East Texas Precast is amenable to paying for car washes for the citizens, but it's bad. And I would appreciate, again, some attention on behalf of the citizens of Prairie to look into that situation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Dr. Vita Brown.
Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure and delight to see your smiling faces out there. But I wanted to mention something I know we have candidates running for political office at this season. And I think it's very important, and you may think it's trivial, but it's very important that when you do your campaign materials, your signs and your posters and your handouts, it's good that you comply with the legal part of it, but it's even better when you comply with good English grammar and spelling. And it not only, when you make sure your material reflects Prairie View. This is a university city. Majority, I think everybody that's running for office has a degree of some sort from Prairie View A&M University. So when you have material with misspelled words or poor grammar, it not only reflects our city in terms of we are predominantly black, African American university city, town, but it also reflects where you got your degree from, which is Prairie View A&M University. So we want to make sure that when we have materials that are running for office or whatever office you're running for, or posters out, that they have good grammar. And we have the ladies here from the Retired Teachers Association, and we have English teachers that would be more than happy to check your grammar and put you out there, Ms. Webster. Your grammar and punctuation, I know this is probably hard for some of you all to understand, but when you have a predominantly black African American city, where all your candidates are black African American, and you have a degree from an African HBCU, and you should reflect excellence in that. And I'm just hoping that, I'm not talking about anybody in particular, I'm just hoping that you'll keep that in mind. even if you want me to review some stuff. I don't mind doing it for you to help out in any kind of way, but I just think it's important that, and even now we have an international presence. We have a global, people from all over the globe are looking at Prairie View now. And when you say the city of Prairie View, you're also saying Prairie View A&M University, because people look at that as being one and the same. So just be sure that your materials that go out, that the public sees, and they're taking pictures of them and saying things, just make sure that it's grammatically correct. And I'm sure you will. Thank you.
Ashley Jackson.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to City Council, Mayor Allen. I just wanted to come and speak to you all once again. I came in September to speak about Panther Hill Apartments, but also I want to speak to you all about the treatment and safety in relation to health and hygiene of your citizens. And I'm going to tell you about a weekend back in February where we spent 3 days, 10 plus buildings spent 3 days without water. I had to use water bottles to shower and wash myself. I had other young ladies in my building that had to ask for water. Can I use the water to, wash my hands, wash my face, wash my body so that, I can at least be somewhat clean. We were told, we had the mayor come on campus and he told us that it was the city's decision to turn off the water for those days because it was a convenient time to turn off the water, but we had no notification. Also, following that week, we had the water turned off 2 more times. No notification. In the middle of the day, when people were trying to get ready for class and they could not shower, could not wash their face, could not wash their hands, and we had to use water bottles, or some people didn't even have water to shower or do these things. So I want you all to be aware of these issues because it's a thing that is constantly going on. Plumbing issues have been a major issue since August when these apartments opened. It is constantly going on. Toilets are bubbling in the middle of the night. Apartments are still flooding. And I know people that have moved out because of that issue. And also, we were told by the mayor, you suggested that we enroll in some type of alert system for the city to be notified when the water would be cut off. It's not our responsibility to do that, all due respect. We're supposed to be notified by the apartments. They are supposed to give us a notification and say, we're going to turn the water off for X amount of time, and this is the reason why. That did not happen, and it hasn't happened for many times. We've only received 2 notifications out of all the times the water has been cut off. So that is my issue I'm bringing to council. I want you all to be aware of this because it's constantly going on and somebody needs to do something. I'm aware that you all are not legally binding to do things for the apartments, but somebody needs to do something. And I'm waiting for a response. Thank you.
Bernice Webster.
I did not want to come up because I appreciate your observation. You had already inadvertently, we greatly appreciate it because we are senior citizens who want to join the program. And you had already asked for that to be moved up. So that was my concern. So since I'm up here, I would greatly appreciate, since senior citizens have to express their concern, that you move us up. Because if you notice, I had a hard time getting up. So we don't want to have to pay to develop muscle spasms.
Since the comments is up, over? Yeah. Yes.
Oh, he was just coming to the meeting, because he didn't come last week.
Item 11.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Brown.
I move that item 11 be moved to the agenda
right now. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that item 11 be moved up on the agenda to the current time. All for the motion, ready for the questions?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed have the same right? Ayes have it.
Okay, so we can now address the council. Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate that. Now, last time that I spoke to the council, my friends were in the audience, so they wanted to come and express concern on the things that I had already spoken to. Okay? So I'll ask them to come up while I get my notes. Come on, senior citizens. Yeah, we'll make sure to get up.
Yes, if you could, let's have order, let's have order. For the benefit of the council, what we're dealing with is the issue of 224 Oak Street having moved in prior to a certificate of occupancy. But the greater issue, which they wish to share with you, has to do with what was approved versus what's actually taking place. And they have that information. Ms. Webster, we'll start with you.
Yes, before I began talking, because the senior citizens in expressing their concern have taken their ideas from chapter 14 of the, Tyson, you can give me my extra copy, I never want to put mine. I'm not giving you anything other than individual things. Give everyone a copy, Brian.
They got it.
Oh, thank you very much, sweetheart. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. Okay, so thanks for giving us this time, and we're going to try to do this as quickly as we possibly can, because we appreciate your cooperation. So again, now we come because we are having another problem that's existing in our neighborhood, and when everyone expresses his or her concern, and then I'll tell you about the second existing problem. Now, the things that's causing this problem is that the persons who get the contractors to build, they, on their application, they check single family residence. Now, whether that was intent or not, that's what has happened. But they have done when they build is contrary to single family residence. And the most important thing, now, as a lady said from the bureau that I can't pronounce, Veritas, that zoning has become a problem. And it certainly has, and I certainly appreciate your observation of that, because that's what we are experiencing. So the builders that's coming into our residence do not live in our city. And we have one coming in that doesn't live in our state. So this is really getting to be a big hassle. And we certainly need your help in controlling this. So I'm going to let our persons that live, the citizens express their concern. But let me tell you, let me read you this. I'm going to be as quickly as I possibly can. This is taken from the zoning district. And we are under the umbrella of R1. And this was taken from section 4.02, R1, single family residential district. Single family residential district. Okay, I'm not speaking from that now. The others will talk about that. And I wanted you to follow, and I suggested them to be as quickly as possible, even if they have to read it. So we won't take up, too much time.
Okay, so Mary Ellen, if I can assist you in directing the crowd regarding the agenda item. The agenda item itself is regarding the certificate of occupancy.
Right.
Whether or not it's a violation of chapter 14 is something that goes through municipal court and is not under the purview of the city council. So I want you to assist them in being very careful in how they address. I want them to have their opportunity to speak. I understand the frustration. but if you can assist them in kind of honing into that issue.
Sure, and as you will see, and I'll let you go straight to read that, so we can move it quicker.
Okay.
But what will come from this is, there's a certificate of occupancy on the table, and I felt the need to bring it to council after hearing their concerns. And so what they're referring to is whether or not and how, if they're even gonna get a certificate of occupancy. So this will be the background. Go straight into reading, Ms. Webster, so you
Okay,
can cover
then
what
I'll
you
do
need to
this
cover.
very quickly, and I want to define family, okay?
Go
If
ahead,
I
read it.
can. I'll do it very, very quickly, I won't read all of it then. This district is primarily intended for single-family, detached residential dwelling and related religious, educational, I get nervous when I can't do that, and recreation facilities, normally required to provide the basic element of a balanced and attractive neighborhood. These areas should be separated and protected from the encroachment of land use activities that do not perform a function necessary to sustain the residential environment. Now, I will omit some of that, and let me define family for you, since we said R1.
No, Ms. Webster, that won't be, they're gonna cover that. In working with the city attorney, let's go to the next person so we can.
Okay,
I
all
wanna
right.
make sure that you
So,
all do
whoever
cover
wants to read,
the
speak, or
salient
whatever
issues.
procedure, just go ahead.
Whoever's next, please come forward.
Attorney, did you get one of these?
I did not.
Okay, I'm gonna give you one, because I will be reading from this. So I want you to follow.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Oh, I-
Okay, Mayor and City Councilman, I'm sure you've already seen this at some time or another. So if you would, I would like, excuse me, citizen, because I want to is beneficial to them, okay? So if you can hear me fine, if not, I'm sorry. Okay, so I would like to draw for you to direct your attention to section 202.01.
And that is
Certificate of
titled
occupancy.
Certificate of Occupancy, so
Yes.
we'll have it back on point, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to do number 8. Okay, when required, a certificate of occupancy shall be required for any of the following: occupancy and use of a building hereafter erected or structurally altered, which it has been. It's now not a single family dwelling. It's for rent for anyone who wants to rent in that building. Change in use, that's B on the next page, of an existing building to a use of a different classification. It's no longer R1, it's now R2.
Who's next?
Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm reading from 2.0202. Occupancy without certificate prohibited. No
Mr. Mayor.
such use.
Yes,
That's appropriately before the municipal court, not the city council.
okay,
Oh, to that particular section.
okay.
Should I continue?
No, let's go to the next person.
Okay, all right.
We'll just follow with our legal counsel and,
Okay, with Mayor and City Council, we will be following a similar pattern, and you can tell me if this is appropriate, but this deals with procedure for new or altered buildings. Written application for a certificate of occupancy for a new building or for an existing building, which is said to be altered, shall be made at the same time as the application for the building permit for such building. Said certificate shall be issued within 10 days after a written request for the same has been made to the zoning officer. And I think the emphasis here is on zoning officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
This is number 2.02.04. Procedure for vacant land use or a change in building use. Written application for a certificate of occupancy for the use of vacant land or for a change in the use of land or a building or for a change in a non-conforming use to a conforming use as herein provided, shall be submitted to the zoning officer for review on forms available in the zoning officer's office. If the proposed use is in conformity with the provision of this ordinance and has been approved by the zoning officer, the certificate of occupancy shall be issued within 10 days after the application has been made.
Okay. 2.02.05, contents of certificate of occupancy. Every certificate of occupancy shall state that the building, the proposed use of the building or land complies with all provisions of Prairie's codes and ordinances. A record of all certificates of occupancy shall be kept on file in the office of the zoning officer or designee, and copies shall be furnished upon request to any person having proprietary or tenancy interest in the building or land affected.
I provided the council with a copy of this document. You may want it for the record. What I have in front of you is the depiction of the property that we're talking about. It says for lease, Century 21, 4 bedrooms, and call Rosa Garza at 281-975-8869 or Century 21 at 936-931-3100. On its face, this would not be permitted use of this property based on the city's zoning ordinance or any lawfully permitted use occupancy. It would not be allowed. And in addition, we have local subdivision restrictive covenants and deed restrictions that require all dwellings to face the
Mr.
nearest
Johnson,
street.
you're getting off of the certificate of occupancy on agenda, and I just want to make sure
Okay,
you follow.
okay. I'm just explaining what I put in front of you. It just highlights the fact that it doesn't meet anybody's requirements. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
My part is a simple question, Mayor and members of the City Council. Who is the zoning officer for the City of Prairie View? Would you look on page 283, and if you can see the duties of the zoning officer, just briefly? Because we feel that if we have a zoning officer that we can work with, we can go through these duties and help solve a lot of our problems.
Officer White
It's the mayor.
The mayor.
The mayor.
Officer White is the code enforcement officer, but I'm letting you finish your.
Well, I finished because I just want to know who that officer is, and we would work closely with you if you were that zoning officer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you all. Yes.
allow me to pass out the second problem that is existing, and that is a builder got a permit for single-family occupancy, and this person does not live in the state. So we want to keep our R1 as it should be kept. Thank you very much. I wanted the council to be apprised of the second problem. And I talked to you the last time, it was the first problem. Now this is the second problem. And please look at that permit, and we ought to get back to this.
And for the record and for council's edification, this second one has not been issued a permit as yet. Just just so you know. They have concerns, but a building permit application has not been signed.
So this is not the one we're talking about?
No, 224 Oak Street is the current issue.
I still see the
Nor
numbers.
nor
I
did
see
building
the-
permits
Yeah.
come before the city council.
So I guess I have a question, and we've been here before. I think we were here in reference to, council had questions in reference to processes with Panther Hill Apartments. In reference to when a company comes in, whether it be single family or commercial, we took the Bureau Veritas processes, the application, that we adopted the application similar to what you had at West, City of West, and we were trying to make sure that we followed a process, meaning we had several signatory lines, so we know where we're at in the process. I guess my question on what is stated, the certificate of occupancy, I'm having some issues because it's not a structure that's coming, it's a structure that's already here. And so can we, Mr. Mayor or Bureau Veritas, can you walk us how we got here if, to be able to say, well, why we want to hold up a certificate of occupancy if we approve them at the beginning to go ahead and build the structure? Because, and I don't know if this is something that is, would be, is legal, is, the reason why I'm asking for the process to be identified is because I think based upon the decisions that we make or don't make, the other party, whoever the other party may be, may have legal implications in reference to the decision we make. And so we want to, one, make sure we clearly identify the process to the citizens sitting in the audience to make sure that we support what they want, but it's also supported on other projects as well.
Ms. Rogers, if you would come forward, since she's got direct knowledge in response to that, but I will say this, to answer a piece of your question. The permit that you see, that you have a copy of on 224 Oak Street, was approved based on its face. The box for single-family residence is checked, so it was approved. What we're talking about now is a change in use. So the approval process got halted, and I'll let Ms. Rogers cover what she found in her visit as a part of the
But
final inspections.
it got permitted as a single-family residence, and it got inspected as a single-family residence. That's 4-bedroom, 2-bath. Well, whenever I went out to do the final, and that's something else, that the zoning is checked at the permit stage, so the ladies at the front office or wherever, would know that would be designated as an RA out there. Until, we take over the building official services, we really would not get involved in anything zoning-wise. When I went out to do the final inspection on it, would be the second time, had one of the other inspectors came up and did one, felt them on a few things. So when I went back for the re-inspect, that's whenever I realized it wasn't single-family residential. They were doing student housing. And it was already occupied. We typically don't go in occupied buildings. Once your personal belongings are in that building, we don't go in there unless it's a code compliance issue that individual has come in and applied to the city for a code compliance and someone is there. We have everything ethical. We don't like to leave any questions asked or, potential. When I asked the builder, he called me that morning and I asked him, and I said, well, it's been a while since your last final. I said, is it occupied? And then he told me, yeah. And I said, well, I don't go in occupied structures. Then he called me back, said that he had it was just staged. And I said, well, staging, you're not supposed to stage either unless you get a certificate of occupancy. However, you did have the one inspection. There was something they needed to fix with the electrical panel. The flat work, they were still working on it and got there, and they didn't have any hot water. Those were the 3 items I went back to check on. So whenever the first inspector failed those items. So when I went out to do that, when the builder called me and says, no, it's just staged, there's nobody living there. I said, okay, well, that's fine, I can do it. So I come out here, and when I got there, they had the back door open. When I went around the front door was locked. And they said, well, let's just go in this way. So I went in and went into the back door, and there's 2 rooms right here, and I just went straight to the bathroom, because that's what's going into, was check hot water. So I checked that bathroom, I didn't notice anything, you know, other than maybe a few staged items. So when I walked across the kitchen, when I stepped out of that hallway, I noticed there's a laptop there. I've seen some realtors stage with laptops that are fake or whatever it is. But then I also noticed, when I walked by, there's dirty dishes in the sink. That's normally not part of staging with realtors. But then the 2 bedrooms, I couldn't open the door or anything, and he said, oh, well, the homeowner's sitting out in her car with the keys. So he ran out there to get that. When I walked past the kitchen to the 2nd bathroom to check it, that's when I noticed it is occupied. I've got razors, I've got shampoo, I've got soap, I've got towels hanging up everywhere, I've got the bathtub lined with stuff. So I turned around, I walked out, and I told the builder, I said, you told me this was not occupied. And what he told me, he said, well, and then he threw Officer White under the bus. And he said, well, Officer White told me to tell you whatever it took to get you out here. Well, I had a conversation with Officer White about that afterwards, and he said that, Officer White said, he goes, I've never had that conversation. I said, yeah, I didn't think you did. But at that point is whenever I came back, got with the mayor, and let the mayor know that it was already occupied, and why the rooms were locked is because whatever rooms were leased out, the student had a key with them in class. So that's how we found that, after the fact. It's already built. So the owner made that change.
So this is I guess my question is, and I don't know if my question is for you, but when we talk about process, it's my understanding, and I could be 100% wrong, that buildings are inspected as they're being built, right?
Correct.
During their stages, and I believe there's a distinct description of a R1 resident that has to have this kind of structure, and it has to have this kind of thing, and it has to be facing. I mean, Mr. Johnson just kind of came up here and gave us a little bit of that, and so I'm trying to figure out where in the process, because I mean, it's not hard to see that this house clearly isn't facing the street, and that's, you know, like a minor thing. You look at the siding, you know, I believe, you know, R1 structures are supposed to be brick and mortar, but I could be wrong about that. But and I say I could be wrong because I don't have that information in front of me, but you know, it's supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to have a cement foundation, brick and mortar, you know, if it's supposed to be facing the street. So at what point in the inspection process did we not look at this home and say this home isn't up to code? Just, this is initial stages, just from when they laid the slab, you know. I mean, it looks like a trailer home. And so I guess the question is, how does the process work to where we're not having this conversation after the building's completely finished and it's, you know, they're trying to, you know,
Right.
put people in there?
Unfortunately, that would be the zoning officer.
Now, let me ask you a question.